I don't really have a witty thing to say in front of this episode. Just assume I did.
Yeah, I got balls, books I read. I got balls, won't you listen to me?
Hello, and welcome to The Author Has Thoughts. I am the author in question, Gary Ballard. Today I'm going to be talking about episode 6 of my Kindle Vella series, which will eventually be a novel, called Hiss Whistle Dead. While you're looking for links in the description to go pick up the episode, you can hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified of when the next video is coming, which means there will be another episode released. So as I said last week in episode 5, this episode was originally the back half of the original episode 4, which got turned into episode 5 and then episode 5 and 6. The talk with Shell's father in this episode was not in the original draft. I believe I mentioned it earlier, but it was something that I added after the fact, or actually right in the middle. When I got to the end of the first draft, I realized that we don't really get any sense of what type of person Shell's father is. All we know is that he's clearly devoted to their mother, but other than a couple of interactions, he's been basically scenery. I felt like we needed to see him to hear him talk about their mother so that we understand why he just lets her be a douche to everyone around them. And we also get to hear an explanation for why Mom might have such a problem with Lillian's gender neutrality. Say that too fast and it is gone. I'm not going to go into it here, but I will say that it's a completely understandable reaction from her, but also a completely horseshit reason to treat your kid the way she does. I've said it a number of times in these videos, my characterization of Shell's mom is both an amalgamation of my own mom's personality mixed with, other characters I've seen, as well as some of the shit that's happened to other women I've known. She's really a synthesis of women who have been instrumental in my life, with some additions of my own to fit this particular story. My writing is not something I consider just a creative expression. It is that. Sometimes it's my most effective way of dealing with my own emotional shit that I'm not always capable of expressing with my mouth. I think it's true for a lot of people. Expressing their personal damage, out loud is just not something they are able to do. And to bring it back to the story, Shell's mom couldn't really deal with the trauma she'd experienced in high school. She barely talks about it with her husband when they were originally dating. And only after a long time and a bunch of arguments that didn't make a lot of sense to him at the time, arguments that almost ended their relationship, did some of that damage really become obvious. This book is so much about how we deal with trauma and ultimately how we fail to deal with trauma that can cause more trauma, not just for ourselves, but for the people around us. It's also about how trauma causes these huge tidal waves that just start with little bitty ripples. Things that our parents do to us, things that we do to our parents, things our parents didn't even understand they were doing, and vice versa. A disapproving word here becomes this giant resentment later as it's repeated over and over, which wears down the resistance someone like Lillian has because they're being constantly criticized for something that they feel strongly about. One thing I don't ever really go into in this book is the reasons Lillian chose to express their gender neutrality overtly. I don't think I even really know myself. I didn't really come up with one. I would imagine, but again, I don't know because it's not something I've lived. It's something that a person who makes that choice feels like it's the right thing to do. It's not a mask they're putting on. It's not a phase they're going through. It's not a choice they can unchoose. It's finally being able to be comfortable in their own skin to portray outwardly who they feel they are on the inside. I'm actually glad I didn't try to define a trigger because it's both completely immaterial to the story, but also because it forces the audience to take Lillian as who they are, who they wanted to be, allows them to not need to justify to their parents, their siblings, their friends, the world at large, or the audience of this book, who they are. They are just this beautiful person with flaws and all. And so whatever hang-ups you have about their gender neutrality or fluidity, well, that's on you, not on Lillian. It isn't that person's responsibility to make you feel comfortable with their choices. If you're uncomfortable, be uncomfortable. Nobody guaranteed you the right to be comfortable. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you've read this episode already. If you haven't, links in the description, go buy it. Like, subscribe, give me some comments. Check me out on my socials. My Instagram has a bunch of my photography stuff. So come back next week when episode is 7? It'll be episode 7. Comes out. My name is Gary Ballard, and these have been my thoughts.
1, 2, 3, 4.